The colon, or the large intestine, is where absorption is complete and it leaves us only with waste products called feces. The colon compacts these feces, reclaiming any water from it that it can. The colon also harvests vitamins that are left over, and these vitamins are produced by beneficial bacteria. These bacteria also produce gases. The flow of chyme, which is the liquid slurry of digestive foods, moved from the left part, or this is the person's right, and this is the person left, moves from this left part, the lower side of the abdomen, up and through the ascending colon, across the transverse colon, down the descending colon, into the sigmoid colon, and then into the rectum and through the anus to the outside. The rectum is like a waiting room for the anus. It can get larger and larger depending on what's in there. And then, of course, everything that's in there is waiting to leave. Off the large intestine, where it comes into contact with the small intestine, is the ileocecal valve. This ileocecal valve separates the small and large intestines at the cecum, which is the specific word for the entrance into the large intestine. This cross section of the appendix looks a lot like a Peyer's patch. And those were in the submucosa of the small intestine. Even if you can't see that, just trust me. This makes your appendix part of the MALT system, or the mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. The appendix is basically just a little tiny lymph node. And much like any other lymph node, this structure can become overrun with bacterial, viral, or any type of pathogen. As lymphocytes in the appendix try to battle the pathogen, they start to lose the fight. And ultimately, this can lead to an abscessed and burst appendix, leaking toxic substances into your parietal cavity. Into your peritoneal cavity. The large intestine has these little pockets that are called hausтрums, or plural haustra. And these little pockets can expand independently from the pocket next to it, allowing for the gases created by the bacteria harvesting vitamins. The large intestine has a very thick serosa that is continuous with the ommenta, or the mesenteries, that hold all of your abdominal organs in place. Little things called epiploic appendages, which are not pictured here, but I will draw some of these things. Little things called epiploic appendages, kind of like hang off the large intestine, and I'm not doing them justice and drawing them with a highlighter. They're these little, like this, just making the large intestine that much more disgusting. But there are these little epiploic appendages, which are pieces of adipose fat, and they are part of the serosa of the large intestine. As we move deeper into the wall of the large intestine, deep to the serosa, is the muscularis externa. This has those characteristic look of the two layers of meat that result from the smooth muscle being oriented into a circular and a longitudinal layer of muscle that's used for peristalsis. In the large intestine, these muscle layers are quite thick compared to other organs. There's also this little stripe of smooth muscle that kind of runs down the haustra. This is called the tentacoli, and this extra strip of smooth muscle gives just a little bit of extra contraction power to moving feces along that may be very compacted, very dry, and very reluctant to move. I also just want to point out again, here we have this mucosa that's purple in color, taking up that very dark stain. The large intestine's lining, I mean, even though the small and large intestine hold the same name, they're very different in function. Well, the small intestine had those circular folds or plicae circulaires, and the small intestine had villi for absorption. The large intestine lacks these structures, and instead it has these very deep and very abundant crypts or glands. You can also see all of these little bubbles here are all of the mucus cells, and there's way more mucus cells here in the large intestine than there was in the small intestine. These mucus cells add for the lubrication to the dry, compacted feces. The large intestine, the stomach, the rectum, they're all lined with simple columnar epithelial cells, but their functions and their other features are very different. I always love to ask my classes if you would rather be afflicted every day of your life with constipation or diarrhea. I usually get a few people who say I am already afflicted with one of those, so I don't have a choice. It is a tough question though, right? These two conditions are very opposite of each other. Constipation usually results from a lack of water or too much water reclamation by the large intestine. So either you're not drinking enough or your body is just abnormally removing a large amount of it. This compacts the feces, making them more difficult to move through the large intestine. On the opposite end of the spectrum, though, is diarrhea, which is when the large intestine is secreting too much water or not reclaiming enough water. This is commonly associated with a bacterial or a viral infection. The increased water in your feces is your body's attempt to flush the pathogen from your digestive system. I dare you to mention the Bristol scale the next time you go to a gastroenterologist. This is the Bristol scale. I don't think that I have to explain it. But I do have to ask, why would you want this named after you? I do not like the kimchi. I don't even let my husband buy it anymore because it makes the entire refrigerator smell like the fart of someone who ate cabbage earlier in the day. It is terrible to drink milk that tastes like cabbage fart. All right, however, I do recognize that kimchi contains live, active, beneficial bacteria. Just like kombucha, a real sauerkraut, a real root beer, which are both fermented, sour cream, yogurt, and anything else that the FDA requires that we label it as containing live and active cultures. This is generally what we refer to as good bacteria or probiotics. The benefit of these bacteria living in your colon is that they are great at harvesting that last little bit of value from your food feces. They're great at harvesting vitamins from whatever's left over. Whatever it was that your small intestine couldn't extract, your large intestine is the last point that we can try to do that. If you've ever taken a course of Keflex or Biaxin or any other antibiotic that is incredibly wide range antibiotic, you probably cleared out all of your quote good unquote bacteria. This is why taking measures to keep or repopulate your large intestine flora is very important when you are taking antibiotics. Many years ago, I was suffering from some digestive condition that went undiagnosed and seems to have resolved on its own, knock on wood. But I was teaching an A&P class in Geneva at night, and I announced that I'd have to take a day off, probably 2 days off. And the students immediately asked me if I was going to have a colonoscopy. Right? And it's not like I could hide it. I was like, yeah, gastrointestinal issues. And considering that it was an A&P class, I admitted yes. This elicited raised hands from many of the students who all had little pieces of advice to offer for prepping for a colonoscopy. these suggestions, they were great. They ranged from purchasing baby wipes to setting up a desk in front of my toilet so that I could do work. There were other suggestions that they were both ridiculous and wonderful. This picture here, this is a picture of a colonoscopy. This tube has a little tiny light in a camera on the end of it, and it sometimes has a little punching mechanism that can help us take a biopsy if needed. No, normal colonoscopies do not usually go all the way around the bend to the ascending, as the picture here on the right. Most are limited to mostly your sigmoid colon and maybe to a little bit of your descending colon, much like the picture that's over on the left.